morning. Joe here. It's Firearms Friday. We're in the classroom at Larry's on North Memorial Parkway. Today we're going to do week 4 of our continuing series on the fundamentals of handgun shooting. So today we're going to talk about trigger control. So let's go and look at some examples and what we're talking about here. So trigger control is the proper method of activating the trigger to minimize movement that can misalign the sights. So the simple idea here is if you do not have proper trigger control, your gun is going to move, therefore your sights are going to be misaligned and you're going to miss your exact target. So when you do this, you want your trigger between the fingertips, the first joint of the index finger. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And then the trigger squeezed straight rearward in a smooth, continuous movement. And that's hard for us to do. We have to learn to do that. We'll talk more about that in a second. The trigger squeeze should produce a surprise break. When it happens, it should break and it should be like, oh yeah, it fired. And then finally, the trigger squeeze and sight alignment are done while maintaining a minimum arc of movement. Now we're going to spend a whole week on arc of movement here a little later on. So right now, let's break this down and talk about this a little bit more. So trigger control. So while you're doing positive trigger pressure straight to the rear, if there's any thought that enters your mind about speeding up or slowing down this trigger pressure, it's going to result in slight alignment being broken down. In other words, the slight alignment we talked about last week is going to be messed up. So the decision to increase trigger pressure is going to result in a reflex action commonly known as anticipation. Anticipation is a bad thing, basically, and it results in heeling the shot. That means that you're going to be pushing the gun with the heel of your hand. This is going to result in probably coming up around 1 or 2 o'clock somewhere when you hit the target, because you're pushing the gun with the heel of your hand. So the recoil becomes very imminent and the brain will send a signal to the arm and hand muscles to react prematurely a split second before the shot is fired, results in bad shots and low scores on the target. All right, now, the most serious and disrupting error made by the shooter is jerking, and that is abrupt application of pressure on the trigger accompanied with muscular action of the hand and arm. So what does this really mean? Jerking is the sharp straining of the muscles in the arm and the shoulder. It means you're really stressed out probably and you pull that trigger too fast. This means that it's a very abrupt or quick tightening of the hand on the grip. Failure to press the trigger directly to the rear, and all these taken together mean that your gun is going to shift out of your sight alignment that we talked about earlier. All right, let's keep going. So jerking are an increase in the size of the area of the shot group or shots off to the side which are not called to be there. Now what this means is if you look at your typical 16 by 16 target, you're going to wind up with shots all over the paper and not just where you want them to be, in one corner or the center or whatever, but you're going to wind up with shots all over. All right, so one way to correct this condition, make a change in the training exercise, but do not stop them. So here we go. This is a great thing. We do this all the time here at Larry's. Training by means of ball and dummy and dry firing is a great benefit. What is ball and dummy training? This simply means, let's say we take a 10-round magazine in our semi-auto, and about every 1 or 2 or 3 rounds, we stick in a dummy round. So whenever you pull the trigger, there's nothing going to happen because it's a dummy round, not a live round. And as a trainer, then we watch and see what you do when you hit that, because you don't know when that dummy round is going to come up. We've loaded the magazine as instructors, and you don't know when that dummy round is going to come up. And we can watch and you'll see you push the gun down and when you pull the trigger, or you'll jerk the trigger, whatever. So we can help you by doing that when we do ball and dummy training. It's really important. The other part of that is dry firing, okay? You can't sit in your recliner and dry fire. We're going to do another video later on the whole series of dry fire training, but you cannot sit in your recliner and aim with one hand and pull the trigger. That's not dry fire training. We're going to talk about dry fire training in another video later on. All right, dry fire practice will enable the nervous system to rest from the recoil of the shot. It's really important. And you see people in the range sometimes, they're going to come in and boom, 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 boom. They just keep shooting until they're out of ammo. All they're doing is converting money into noise. They're not really getting any benefit in terms of learning how to shoot. They're just converting the money they spend on ammo into noise because they're not really doing anything productive. All right, and then the last thing on this slide, aiming carefully and noting attentively everything that happens when you press the trigger. The shooter is going to discover your errors and how to eliminate them. And again, feedback is really important in doing this, so that's why we have classes all the time here at Larry's. All right, so how are you going to place your finger on the trigger? This not good right here usually, okay? Usually, if you put your finger right here, then that is gonna create typically, this finger's gonna come around whenever you pull the trigger, and it's gonna pull the gun to the lower left of the target. Ideally, you want your finger right here between that first joint and the tip of your finger. Now, there's a real trick with this. If you think about this, no matter how old you are, your whole life, you closed your hand like so. So that's what your hand does. And when you're holding your handgun, your hand wants to do this. Your finger wants to come around and join. So what you have to learn to do is bring that finger straight back. Otherwise, you're going to pull the gun around to the left. So you need to learn to bring that finger straight back. That's why dry firing is so important for you to learn how to do that. If you don't learn to pull that finger straight back, then you're never going to overcome that lower left on the target thing then. All right, that's what we're doing today. Handgun trigger control, part of the entire process of learning to shoot effectively. So we're going to go in the range now, and we're going to demonstrate this a little bit for you, and we'll see how it works in reality. All right, hang on 1 second, we head to the range. Okay, so we're over the range now, and I'm going to shoot 3 different firearms here, and I'm going to try to demonstrate proper technique and trigger control like we've been talking about. So I'm going to start right here. I've got my firearm. I'm going to load her up. Ready to go? Ready to go. Here we go. Gun safe. Now watch my finger. Now notice where I'm using my finger on this gun. I'm going to move here to this 357. I'm going to move to this Glock. Okay, shooting 5 rounds. Again, watch my finger and everything. Watch how this goes, okay? Thumbs to the target. Here we go. All right, there you go. Now, remember, when you're doing this, do not try to grip the gun like this. Do not put that finger all the way through. That might be comfortable to do that in terms of holding the gun, but that means every time you pull the trigger, it's going to pull the gun down to the left. So don't do that. Remember, you want to use this part. You want to pull evenly, slowly back there. We're not in a race here, okay? So we're trying to look at basic fundamental stuff for learning how to shoot your firearm. All right, that's it this week here at Larry's. Come and shoot with us. We're here Tuesday through Saturday. Tuesday through Friday, we're here 10 till 4 or 10 till 6. Saturday 9 till 4. Remember, all of us here at Larry's want you to stay armed and stay safe. Bye-bye.